Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Flight Path. It is Halloween, so this is a special Halloween edition of Flight Path, although I guess we should have probably dressed up or put some fun costumes on. But we didn't, but we're going to talk to you about some really exciting updates to the Tern platform. As always, you've got the dynamic trio, as I've decided to call us just now. I'm David, CEO and co-founder, joined by Brad, our head of design, Molly, our head of product, and we are here to give you a recap of everything that happened this week, some game-changing new features that just launched. But as always, we're going to start like we normally do, which is just sort of like with a week in review. Quick plug, as always, before we get to that, like if you haven't already, like, subscribe, leave us a comment. We love all those things. And with that out of the way, we're going to come right over to Molly first. How was your week, Molly?
Well, my week isn't over yet. I think the highlight is going to be Halloween with my kiddos. Riley, my daughter, has been excited for weeks because she's obsessed with The Lion King and she's going as Nala. My 9-month-old is going as Simba. I am Mufasa and my husband is Scar. So it's going to be a party. And it's her first time that she'll actually understand trick-or-treating, which is going to be I think really cute. So I'm excited for that. In Workland, I've been deep in kind of our host sub-agency model work, which I know we've talked about before, but making it so kind of multiple layers can exist on Tern and do things like get supplier statements in, reconcile that supplier revenue, and then have those kind of reconciled statements trickle down to agencies under a host agency and have them automatically be reconciled. And then that sub agency can easily pay out their agents. Turns out there is a lot of surface area from everything from trip collaboration to contact collaboration to subscription management that this touches. And so I feel like I've just been in this deep heads down space on a lot of that all week. My whole calendar is heads down on this part of it and then this part of it. So it's been good. I like that kind of deep work.
So much complexity to adding the layers, but it's going to be so game changing. So excited for more updates there as that comes to life. Brad, how was your week? Are you doing any fun Halloween things?
Jack and I will be sitting on our stoop in Philly handing out candy. It's fun as always. The kids are just such a delight in our neighborhood and always have great costumes. So that'll be our evening. It's also supposed to be super windy here during trick-or-treating, 50-mile-an-hour winds. And right now it says it's 50 outside, feels like 37. So we'll see how many children can actually, enjoy their trick-or-treating and not blow away.
Is just a ghost fly by? You're was that a kid or a decoration? I don't.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the plans for today. But this week has been, I feel like this week has been a journey. Lots of really high highs. We launched our integration with Project Expedition, the first iteration of that. And that was just a huge celebratory moment within the team. We've been working on it for a while and just so fun to finally get that out. We'll talk about it more here in a second. And then also some chaotic low lows, where we'll talk about those things too, around just some challenges we had this week with email. So just a normal week in the life of somebody working at a startup, just constant roller coaster, but all
constant roller coaster. Yes. Well, yeah, we've said that on the podcast, I think, before, but it's the highest highs and the lowest lows, oftentimes in the same week and sometimes in the same day, which we'll unpack a lot of that in the episode today. It's been a good week. I echo the roller coaster. I said on the podcast last week, I was I'm going to Cruise World next week. We're going to do a happy hour. And then I literally got off the podcast. I was that is not what I'm doing next week at all. The Cruise World is, in fact, next week now. This week I was at TPI doing their sort of big annual conference, announcing some of the new integrations and partnerships, which was really, really fun. And it's just kind of cool hearing very firsthand the impact that we're, again, having on so many advisors, businesses. And that was really special. But then, at the same time, sort of the backdrop of the chaos of some of these email things, which we'll talk about sort of near the end of the episode. So if you're curious understanding what that was in more detail and sort of how we show up and respond to those and what kind of operationally that looks like, we'll talk about that at the end after we get through some of the new product updates. But it's been a good week. Halloween for me, it's sort of what you were saying, Brad. It's we our neighborhood is a big trick or treat neighborhood. And so we have we kind of created this tradition where our neighbors will actually come and sit in our front yard. We'll both kind of hand out candy for both houses, and we bring our solo stove up and just have a fire going in the front yard, and it's just very nice. But it's cold, so we'll see. But excited for the cute costumes and to do that. So that'll be fun. Looking forward to it. Let's get into what you all are here for, which is what's new in Tern. We have Actually, I mean, not actually, we ship updates every single week, but this week I feel like it's like a particularly exciting and impactful week. We've got updates to global search. We have Project Expedition to talk about. We've got updates on reporting, like we've got quality of life. So let's jump right into it. Molly, you're going to kick us off, I think, with some updates on global search. What's new since last week when we talked about it for the first time?
Yeah, so people have been really excited about global search, and it's our classic like inside joke of like they love it and then they want 500 more things. Of course, as always with any feature, it makes our jobs kind of like, I think, endlessly exciting because there's never a shortage of things to build, I would say. And the main things that we updated since we talked last is first, we were seeing some folks run into longer load times just because we're trying to search on thousands of contacts on trips. When you're searching by confirmation number, there can be just like so much data to parse through. And so we made both improvements to how fast things load, but also more kind of visual feedback that like something is happening when it's working to find relevant results. So there's actually like an obvious loading state now too. And then another thing that people pointed out was on when you're actually putting in like a confirmation number to look up a trip or a contact, if you actually click on the what we call chip, and maybe Brad, when you do some demos, you can point this out, but there's like a little chip for what the confirmation number is. And we've made that clickable. So it not only takes you to the right trip now, but it takes you to that booking with the confirmation number that you searched for to just make your workflow even more streamlined, which is exciting. And then finally, we were like so excited about these keyboard shortcuts that we had so that you could like use global search without ever actually like using the mouse. So like the amount of clicks that we killed with that was like my birthday. But one thing we ran into was it's Command K, and apparently people were using Command K in the editor to add hyperlinks with it as a quick shortcut. So then we had to fix that so that if you're using it in the editor, it's not going to pull up global search. It's actually going to do the link things. All of those fixes. We also are kind of aware of other top areas of feedback. I think we talked about this last time, but we're listening to feedback as always with any feature that we launch, period. But also in particular, this is in beta. So we're like extra ears to the ground for what you think. We're listening for that feedback. We're also measuring the types of searches you're trying to run. And we're kind of keeping track of that in a structured way. So we can say, what are the most common things people are trying to do and add those things into turnover time. So things like searching on notes, documents, tasks, trying to find trips and contacts that are shared with you. So especially if you're like an agency owner, being able to look up things that aren't necessarily in like your trips or your contacts. So those are some of the big ones on our radar that we'll think about adding over the coming months. And I'm sure that we'll get lots more insights over the coming weeks as well.
Molly, I also have to just say, because you're talking about the killing clicks, it's like really funny how your brand of that has like permeated across the industry. Like at TBI, somebody came up and like, well, you know how much Molly loves killing clicks. Like I've got a couple ideas for you. Like it's pretty funny. So, every time we can kill some clicks, that's great. Making the updates to keyboard shortcuts, like pretty exciting. And
if I had to pick a brand, it would be murder adjacent. So
that's right. And we've talked about this like as a murder. Lots to unpack there. It's Halloween, so I guess it's okay. But we'll maybe just keep going. The other thing is like it was really fun at the TBI. I was sort of doing a demo from folks who are using other systems, and I was like, I'll just like show global search here as like a quick example, and like the whole room was like, whoa, like that's like so cool, right? Being able to like search for contacts and trips, and so it's really fun just to see how that is, really helping speed things up, helping make things discoverable, and obviously we'll continue to improve it, like you said. So it's pretty fun.
Oh man, it's also just helped me because I'm like, I help users all the time when they're trying to like troubleshoot or I'm on a call with somebody. And it's so much easier to look up their stuff now when I'm trying to help them. So it's been a big win, like internally too.
Yeah.
I actually retrained myself to do it. Just earlier, I was like, oh, let me go find this trip I'm looking for. And I was like, oh, why am I doing this? Like there's a faster way. I need to remember to go a little higher up.
I'm like, actually, literally, as we're having this conversation, I'm realizing, because I was, helping on some support stuff earlier this week, and I was doing the same thing. I was like, click on trips, search for the trip name, click in on the trip, and now I'm like, that was dumb. Like I should be using global search. Command K, like it's in. That's the future. So let us know what you think about global search in the comments, and keep the feedback coming. We're going to continue to kind of update that and continue to improve it. And who knows, we may even start to expand keyboard shortcuts, like if people really love those. So if you love the keyboard shortcuts, let us know. The other big thing though, and I think sometimes Brad says I'm a little hyperbolic, but like I actually think like we took the first like pretty big step towards a new era of Tern this week with one of our first integrations, now live in beta. Brad, talk to us about what's new in integration land.
Yeah, and probably could use your help here too. I feel like this deserves the like a little bit. But yeah, so what we have live right now is our first step, much longer journey with Project Expedition to get all of their tour content. There's something like 34,000 tours they have across their entire product base, basically. All of those things you can now search for directly from Tern. So say you're planning for a trip, you're like, oh, I wonder what kind of like tours I could potentially add for my client, maybe as optional add-ons or just like provide some special experience for them. You don't have to like leave Tern to go explore what's out there. Directly from Tern, you can search across all of their tours, do a little filtering, drill down to your location. And when you pull those things up, we have the full description from the tour, including exclusions, inclusions, exclusions, food, drink, all the like cancellation policy, all that stuff, all right within Tern. And you can add it to an itinerary in one click. Like just wild. It feels like a completely different product when you're using it. Just, I don't know, like I know we did this with cruises already and that like people are blown away by that. But I think even just seeing the scale of the tours and all of the options that are out there, we were on a call earlier just as the squad that was working on it. It's just like, guys, like, have you tried this? Like, do you know what you built? Like, this is so wild. It's so cool. So I'm so excited to have that out.
And it is like, it's funny. You mentioned cruises. I was just thinking about this where 2 years ago, you look at like the cruise integrations that existed for these types of platforms. And they were all sort of this idea of like, okay, like go find the cruise and then like search for it, like using like these specific numbers or whatever. And then like we'll pull in some basic information to the itinerary. But all the discovery had to happen off platform, right? You had to go and find like on the other websites and those types of things. And when we built the cruise integration, we said like, we believe that discovery experience should start to move more into the platform. You shouldn't have to get pulled out of your workflow and like have to go to 15 different websites to do that. And so we built the cruise discovery and now, I think that's becoming somewhat industry standard. And we'll do the same thing with these other integrations. And I think that is what's so special. We've been talking with Project Expedition for a long time. We love them as a partner. They've been so easy to work with, which is one of the reasons we picked them to be the first of this type of end-to-end booking integration partner. But again, other tour imports are just that. They're like, okay, go find the tour, do the discovery somewhere else. Like once you have it, then you can like manually import it into the system. And again, we're like, that doesn't make any sense. Like you shouldn't have to get ripped out of your workflow, like have to go do a bunch of other research and then come back to enter it in. Like it should be right within that flow. And so by having all that content cached on our site, not only does it let us do the discovery piece, but you can also start to like build some really cool recommendation things and we can make search really good. And like, there's just so much cool opportunity. So it is, I think, fun to be like defining kind of a new category of these types of integrations, a new category of like how you should be able to find this content and kind of building from there. So it's fun. You want to show it to him?
Yeah, let me do a little screen share thing. This is always fun on the podcast. We'll make sure we share the right screen here. Oh, whoops. Wrong one.
That's the best thing that you've ever done.
Yeah, that's weird. Little intentional slip there. Our coffee and conversation question today was cruel and unusual, Ellen. Picked it, and it was like show photos of prom or high school dance. So that's just cruel and unusual.
Can you go back just one more time, Brad?
Do we have to?
It's a Halloween episode. We just need like a...
Okay, there it is. There it is. There's a lot of story here, but we'll move on from that.
For the listeners at home, you should really find a way to watch this to see David's incredible looks from high school and his hair. Anywho, I'm glad that landed. I wasn't sure how that was going to go. So let's get back to real Tern things we're trying to demo. So let me just pull up a trip here to show you Project Expedition. And I'm going to use global search for this because it's pretty magical. So here I'll just search for my Project Expedition trip and open that. This does not. You can do this on any trip. You don't have to label it Project Expedition. This is just the easiest one for me to find for the demo. And I'm going to jump over to the itinerary tab. And what you'll notice if you're watching this is that over on the right side where you can build your trip, there's a new section within library items, and that's for a tour library. So now say you're interested in deciding, like maybe you want to pull in an extra tour for your clients. On this cruise, say we're going to Cozumel on November 4th, I can just pull this tour library item in and I can start searching across all of Project Expedition's tours directly from Tern. If you scroll down, you can see there's something like 1,675 pages worth of results. So there's a lot here, but of course we know we want to go to Cozumel, so we can filter down to just those ones. We could also say maybe I want to do some like scuba thing. Look at, and I can see that there's a few different scuba experiences within Cozumel that Project Expedition offers. You can quickly see roughly how long they are.
Pricing? Oh my gosh, it's so cool. Sorry. I just like it's so cool.
Yeah, and then you can jump in. You can see the photos straight from Project Expedition, all of the descriptions here, including again what's included, any recommendations, and you can kind of browse through these and decide which ones you think your clients would be most interested in. And again, they have any information that's on PE's website will be available here. And so this kind of depends on what the supplier filled out there. But say I'm ready and like, oh, this shore dive seems really cool. Go ahead and add it to the trip. And you can just see right here, everything is automatically filled out, pulled into the description. And on the client side, when they go to view this, they will have access to all of that content. So it's not just like, oh, do you want to go scuba diving? It's like, hey, look at this incredible activity. Took me literally 0 minutes to add to your itinerary. Do you want to do it? Like, we'll get you set up and get you going. We're really excited about this. I think this is also just the very beginning. Live pricing, availability, the ability to like for us to automatically book it as soon as a client authorizes is coming pretty soon. So really excited about this first version here.
And you sort of alluded to it. I did demo this, was it yesterday, I guess? And when you pair this with things like our option blocks, you pair this with things like the optional like add-ons, it becomes like a really cool way to start to upsell your clients, right? To Brad's point, like they may not have asked for that, but if you know they're sort of into it, they're outdoorsy, like being able to position this using some of the optional add-ons or the option blocks, is a really, really cool way for you to be able to actually sell more. And then to Brad's point, looks like we might demo that. Like you can actually start to earn more commissions much faster. And we'll start to do, hopefully more automation around this. We'll start to do the like end-to-end booking flow in the very near future, where literally we can take the credit card authorization that exists in Tern today. We can hand securely those details off to Project Expedition, who can immediately then charge the card and make the booking, eliminating all the manual effort. And this is like a good example. Like literally in the seconds I was talking here, Brad, you put this in option blocks, and like now your clients can be like, yeah, like this is what I'd like to do during my short time in Cozumel. Like,
I think
so
also
eh,
cool.
like the description is one thing. I think also just having the images, you're like, oh, I want to do this. Of course I want to do this. And it took no minutes, zero time for an advisor to get these images in. And I think you're just hinting at our roadmap for the rest of the year. More to come on images, just seeing how much this changes the game, if you will, when it comes to getting these things right.
Wow. Teaser there for sure, but stay tuned. Stay tuned. Before we move on, we'll hand it over to Molly for reporting updates. Like I do think this is, I posted a poll on Facebook. Like we were kind of hoping like, oh, there's probably gonna be like a very clear roadmap of like the future of booking integrations in Tern. And what we found pretty quickly was that everybody has different suppliers that they would love to see us integrate with. I think like there's literally hundreds of suppliers with thousands of votes. And at this point, there's like nobody that has more than like 4% of the votes. So that'll be interesting. I think for us though, when we look at this in the invisible work, which we talk a lot about in demos, we talk a lot about on the podcast and webinars, the like so much of it is the booking process, right? From like you send this itinerary to the client and they say, yep, I want to do it. And you have to take those credit card details and go from supplier to supplier, 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 remember the schedule of payment, like do all these different things. And like it doesn't add any net new value to the client if that takes you 10 hours or 10 minutes. And so we think these integrations and this specific integration with Project Edition is the first step towards a system where we can just handle all that for you. Like when you start to think about, and this is a ways off, maybe it'll be 2026, maybe 2027, but like you start to think about cruises, right? And like payment schedules. Instead of you having to remember every single time, like, can we use an authorization to automatically do that? There's just so much opportunity here. There's so much opportunity to bring discovery into the platform and pair that with AI. And so I really do think it's going to be really, really magical to be able to turn on the full end-to-end booking flow for activities with Project Edition and in the future others. And I think it will be a whole new era for the industry, not just for Tern. Like it's going to be really, really cool. And that may sound hyperbolic, but when you try it and you see the impact this can have on your business, if you're not selling score excursions, if you're not doing activities and transfers, like we think it's going to be really impactful.
And like you saw the first part of this, and I mean, we're really just getting started, like zooming out in a couple weeks, even what this is going to look like. It kind of blows my mind. I'm just so excited. I think it's going to be, yeah, I mean, a new era for Tern. Like that is actually, I think, not hyperbolic, even though we like to give you a hard time, David. But I really do think that that's true. So
I think you
time
can
it's
also say hyperbolic as many times as you want after I trolled you by showing your high school photos.
Yes, because I get a
I will
free
not
pass here.
comment on a single other Davidism for the rest of the podcast.
Cool. Blank check. I need to really rack my brain now on what else I can say. So stay tuned. We'll obviously be talking about this a lot more in future episodes. I think it's going to be really going to be fun to get this in your hands. Already, you can go play with it, give us feedback, but we have 2 more phases of this that we're working on right now. So stay tuned. And with that, let's talk about some reporting updates that we've also made. Molly, over to you for that.
Yeah, so reporting, we will continue. We have, for those of you who don't know, we launched this brand new analytics suite that gives you everything from seeing your top earning clients to your trips pipeline, like how well are you converting trips from leads to bookings, and all of the kind of regular stuff you're used to, your sales data, your commission data. It's already incredibly powerful, but we are not stopping. So we will continue to invest and improve reporting over time. The big ones that we added this week, improvement wise. So the first is that now when you add a set of filters to any reporting view, you will see a new option to save that view. So if you filter to what are your sales for like a couple months ago, like you want to see month over month sales, you can save that, and then you can save another set of filters. And not only whatever kind of view you're on when you leave and come back will be the latest one that you see, but you can easily toggle between views. So you're not always having to kind of click, do a bunch of different clicks to actually get to the set of filters you want. You can just save those things and return to them later. And I'm not sure what that sound was, but I'm just going to plow through it.
With Spark just barging in, she's like opening my door apparently.
So that's really big. It was also, I've been doing a number of calls with people who were active on our old reporting view, just to make sure we're planning on getting rid of that, what we call like legacy reporting, in favor of analytics, and just wanting to make sure that they won't miss anything about the old reports. And the one thing that they said that they would miss was those filters are what we call sticky. So if they like configured filters and left and came back, it would like maintain those filters. And that wasn't true with the new analytics. So this also just kind of like checks that box to make sure that we're not like regressing in any functionality before we yank out those old reports. The other thing we added, which is huge, is location filters. So we know when you are reporting sales to suppliers, or when you're kind of trying to plan your strategy, maybe see like what are my top earning agents in certain locations, being able to filter by country, by US state, by those sorts of things can be really helpful. And so now, if you're an agency owner, on your agency sales dashboard, if you're anyone planning your own travel on the your sales dashboard, you will see those filters. So you'll be able to see like properties by location, sales data by location, top agents by location, all of that data on the sales report, you'll be able to cut by any location you want, which is huge. And then the final thing, which should be out by the time the podcast airs, I think it's maybe going to be early next week, but I think it should release today, is seeing your property sales data, but actually seeing properties by nightly volume. So we know, again, like when you're working with these properties, you really need to report on how much like nights total Spark, if you're excited about this, how many nights you kind of directed to any given property. So that will take into account basically any properties you've marked as booked in Tern. If there's multiple rooms on those properties, each of those rooms will count towards a night booked, and it will take into account the check-in and check-out and that range that you've booked it for, and like aggregate those things out by number of nights booked. It'll even take it to an account properties within packages for that data. So it should give you like a really easy at a glance sense of kind of volume of nights booked, which again, we just know is a key stat. So a lot of really big upgrades, right?
And that report is so huge. Like, especially when you talk to like agencies who are trying to like negotiate special rates, they want to be able to like give their BDM updates. Like, it continues to blow my mind how opaque this question is of like how many nights have you booked? What's your total volume? Because it could be booked through multiple host agencies, or there's maybe different IATAs involved, or it's like you've got the wholesalers, and being able to actually see this data is a huge differentiator from a system that only has the booking information, because you never know.
That's the thing, because you're doing this from an itinerary perspective, we have the property, even if it's separate from the booking supplier. Like we have the property that the hotel is at. So like, I don't know. I think it's like a sneaky, like secret sauce of Tern, like giving, yeah.
Well,
huge.
Jennifer was like keeping an entire separate spreadsheet of room nights for all of her like properties she wanted to track, because we just didn't have this yet. So like it's stuff like that too, where people I think really sophisticated owners and advisors are like, they're just like, well, I need this information. I'm putting in the work to like manually track it, or, having an assistant like help you with that. And we're like, all right, like listening to those, I think like listening to the most sophisticated folks and be like, oh, how do we bring that to everyone? How do we share some of that knowledge and make sure
Yeah.
people can all level up?
And that can work up to a point, right? But like you're talking to host agencies that have like 7, 8, 900 agents, right? Like they like literally just don't know, right? And so now, if you were doing it via spreadsheet, we've replaced that. But now, for the first time ever at that scale, you'll have visibility into that, right? And I think it's just a sneaky, really, really powerful example of how much more data and visibility you will have into your sales volume, into your business when you have an integrated platform, when all these different tools are together. Because like I've said, I think on the podcast before, in your booking system or your sort of back-end commission reconciliation system, you may not know the property because it's through a wholesaler, but I guarantee you your client who's checking in knows what hotel they're checking in at. And since Tern does both, like we can give you that visibility and that data in a way that nobody else can, which is pretty cool. So massive updates to reporting. That's not all. Like I said, it was like a busy week with everything else that we have to talk about. We made a bunch of quality of life improvements. And as always, we're going to move to our quality of life section with Brad. Take it away, Brad. And a sneaky guest appearance by Molly at the end.
So 3 main things to talk about today. The first one is that when you are collecting preferences from your travelers in a like trip request form or a client information form, we cleaned up the list of preferences they can choose from. Previously, basically, there could be lots of noise in there, we'll say, because advisors were adding things on individual client profiles, and they didn't realize those options would then be visible for anyone to pick from, and really any travelers to pick from. So it just kind of, I think, was an odd experience, if not kind of like a bad experience for some travelers. They're like, why is this showing up? I'm just like trying to tell somebody that I have a peanut allergy. And so we've cleaned up that list. Should be much simpler now for travelers to find the most important things that they want to make sure you're aware of for their preferences. On your end, on the advisor end, you can still add things there if you need something unique for traveler. Just note that those are still shared across all advisors. So please do not put any personal like information in that list, because other advisors might stumble across it when adding something for their own clients. So,
yeah, we're planning on like making that more obvious as a very quick fix too, to give that more visibility, and then a little bit longer term, actually just making more improvements to how that works. We know that it's still not ideal, kind of how it's set up on the advisor side, but that was actually a lot more work to address and update. So we thought traveler was the most urgent. Let's get out a fix for that. Let's clean that up. And then let's also kind of revisit other ways that it works in the future.
Yep. All right. And then number 2 on the quality of life side is, I don't know now, a few weeks ago, a few months ago, we added documents and confirmation numbers to insurance. And that was great. We were like mostly focused on like the documents and receipts side of that project, though. I don't even think we talked about it in the podcast that now you can add a separate confirmation number to insurance, separate from the policy number, which is really important. Some advisors are even like erasing the policy number, swapping in a confirmation number to make sure you could like reconcile it correctly in commission. So that's all been addressed. And that was actually fixed a little while ago. Well, we just hadn't updated everywhere you can search by confirmation number to pull the confirmation number for insurance now instead of just the policy number. So that's been fixed, whether it's global search or you're reconciling commission, anywhere that you want to be able to search by confirmation number, that will now work for insurance as well. And then the last tiny quality of life update is we finally addressed another spot where our little support widget was blocking a button that you needed access to. So anywhere you had filters previously, the like button to submit the filters, if it was there, it was just had the big chatbot on top of it. So we moved some things around to fix that. And over to Molly for the last one.
Yeah, well, I would also call this like an engineering internal quality of life update. We finally migrated all of your historical trips to our new payments model. So everyone loves the new payments model. We went through a period of time, as we talked about a lot on this podcast, to like squash any of those edge case bugs that were coming up between the new one and the old ones. We were letting you kind of manually say, hey, move this trip to the new payments model. So the big quality of life improvement is you don't have to do that manually anymore. Any trip that you've ever kind of added into Tern is just all using the same consistent, new, improved payments model. And the reason I say it's a quality of life improvement for engineering is because now we in Tern don't also have to say anywhere we show payments, we have to like make the code work for both the old model and the new model. So it's just making our lives easier too. It's making things load faster. It's making the code simpler. So it's just good to have that behind us. We had to migrate a lot of trips. It turns out you put a lot of trips into Tern, which we love, but it had kind of a long time to actually make that migration happen. But we were finally kind of clear of it, which is so exciting.
So cool. And does like, so we've talked so many times on the podcast about just like the complexity of anything that touches payments. And so now that complexity got even worse, right? With two different payment pathways, right? That we were sort of managing at the same time. So nice to be back to just normal level of complexity when it comes to payments. Awesome. Lots of quality of life, lots of updates, big new features with Project Edition, with reporting. It's been a really good week from that perspective. And kind of going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, like it's been a week of highs and lows. Like you've got these like incredible, exciting features. In some ways, like you're seeing glimpses of the future of Tern and I think the future of the industry. And then we also had one of our bigger like incidents that was sort of going on behind the scenes. If you're in the Facebook group, you would have kind of seen me post about this, but we wanted to just have a little bit more of a, kind of a deeper conversation about it, maybe here on the podcast. And so I'll sort of tee up what happened in case you didn't see that video. And then we can kind of talk about like what happens when there's like an incident, as we call it, what an incident is, how we approach it, like really sort of just behind the scenes of what was going on this week. The short version of what happened is, as many of you know, most of the people that listen to this podcast are kind of what I would consider Tern power users, or you're learning very quickly. And in Tern, we have the ability for you to add contacts when you, in most cases, those are travelers, and you can communicate with those contacts. You can send them emails, you can automate that. And this is kind of a core feature that many of you are using every single day for legitimate purposes. Somehow, we're not really sure how we were discovered, but some spammers realized that they could create a trial account in Tern. What is even more mind-blowing is that in order to create a trial in Tern, you still have to enter in credit card details. So we think that they were using stolen credit card details that they found on the dark web. They created a trial, and then they essentially scripted the process of creating a new contact and sending that contact a spam email. And we caught this within a day and a half of it starting to scale. But by that time, they'd sent about 20 to 30,000 spam emails out of our system. And I mean, it's kind of like mind blowing, all the things that had to go into this for this to happen. But I think it's important to emphasize they were bringing their own lists that they had found. Like this was not like they were spamming your clients or anything like that. It was like they were just using this to spam a list of emails that they had gotten. But unfortunately, what that meant is that because they were using Tern to send spam emails, the domain that we had, or the IP addresses, which are sort of the addresses of the servers that those emails send from Tern, were basically classified as likely spam servers. And what that meant is that a select number of email providers, AOL, I think Hotmail, Yahoo, Outlook, basically stopped delivering for a period of time emails that Tern sent because they thought they were likely spam. Email is obviously incredibly important. It's how we send account verifications. It's how you send payment reminders. Like it is a absolutely fundamentally critical part of the system. So that's sort of what happened. Maybe Molly, I'll throw it over to you to talk about sort of like what were some of the interventions that we put in place like fairly quickly. And then, Brad, I'll come to you to talk about sort of just like what happens at Tern when there's an incident like this and sort of the process. So talk to us about like how we responded very tactically to what this specific problem may be.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to give too much specifics on how we're counteracting this in the future, honestly, just because some of it is a little bit of like a arms race to like continue to up our defenses. But things like, you can imagine better automatic detection of people that are likely to be fraudulent, limits on the number of emails people can send right away, monitoring of some of the emails that are going out and getting kind of push notifications on things getting marked as spam so we can jump on those things and kind of address them right away and look into, is it a pattern? So a pretty comprehensive set of things that we're doing to prevent this from happening in the future. I think spammers and fraudsters do continue to get more sophisticated too. So it's actually not a like, okay, we're all done. It's like an ongoing thing that we will actually continue to invest in and level up and get better and more sophisticated over time as well. And we have a great team to do that has seen this for companies that are scaling to like thousands and thousands and thousands of users and experienced this before. So that's fantastic. We are also making sure that we are what we call like warming up other IP addresses and making sure that We're also separating out some things of like important system notifications have their own way of sending that won't be impacted by other ways of sending email. So just another set of things that even if something like this were to happen again, which I don't think it will with what we're putting in place, but it won't impact those like important kind of notifications and that sort of thing. And yeah, also working with our providers directly to talk about what happened and make sure that we're working with them and having a deeper partnership to make sure like we can also use their tools and make sure it won't happen from their standpoint. So anything important I missed? I think we've been
like
kind of working around the clock basically to just like put in all the safeguards.
And I think like what's interesting is like a lot of these, Molly's 100% right, that there's like they're always leveling up in their sophistication. There's also a little bit of like they will seek out the path of least resistance to send spam. So we are like fairly confident that we have now made it very difficult for them to use the pathway that they did before. Like the existing thing that they did will not work anymore. And that has been shut down. We are monitoring. We're not seeing any more evidence of spam. And now it's just sort of like, it was the immediate recovery. It was working with all the different email providers and sort of our provider. And then it was, now hedging in case there is another threat vector, right, that comes up, that like we're not overly reliant on one kind of point of failure. So I think like the silver lining here is that our email sophistication has grown by orders of magnitude in the past 5 days. The downside is it was pretty stressful. And Brad, maybe I'll have you just sort of bring people behind the scenes on like when something like this happens, when there's like a degradation in some sort of functionality. It could be a partial outage, could be something like this with email. We declare what's called an incident. And Brad, do you want to sort of just talk about like what happens at Tern when there's an incident?
Yeah. So like David said, when we declare an incident, what that really means is that somebody on the team has said like, hey, there's an urgent issue that a bunch of team members all need to have eyes on immediately, and we need to resolve as quickly as possible. And the way they do that in our internal tool, we have like a kind of a command we can use in Slack. It's just like, okay, trigger an incident. That like tags in all of the people who need to know about it immediately, like the entire engineering team, support team, leadership team, like anyone who's going to be like needed to either resolve the issue. Well, one, identify what's happening, understand what we need to do to fix it, and also understand the customer impact so that we can communicate effectively with everyone. Like, here's what's going on. Here's what you can do in the meantime. Here's what you should expect. So there's kind of a first phase, declare the incident. Everyone jumps on Zoom and we kind of decide, all right, who's running point here? What's happening? And then that's where we start digging into like, all right, what's actually going on? Who's impacted? And then start to discuss, how long do we think it'll take to resolve? And when we have some of that information, then we can know how should we communicate out with customers to make sure folks are all aware. They're not like stuck in the meantime. And it's not just radio silence where people are like, wait, Tern's not working. Are they doing anything about it? Like, do they know what's going on? So that's kind of the standard process, like where we get started. Everyone jumps on Zoom. You'll see us if there is like a true incident. Sometimes it's a false alarm. Sometimes we're like, oh, it's broken. And then we get on a call. We're like, oh, actually, no, that was just some weird blip, not an issue. We'll put up like a status page so people can always look there too if they need to know, like, is Tern on it? You'll see an update on the status page. And then I think like I don't know how much we want to get into the details from there, but generally it's like people are just on thinking about exactly what's going on. We like redirect a bunch of resources to fix that problem as soon as possible. And we don't really go back to normal until that is resolved. And so it is pretty disruptive, but it's exactly like the disruption we need to make sure that like you all can use the product, your travelers can use the product, and like we'll deal with what we wanted to accomplish today later. We need to like immediately jump on, the thing.
This is P0, right? Like if it's a legitimate incident and like literally the two of us, Brian, who's our co-founder and CTO, like we're like half the engineering team, we were on a Zoom for like 3 hours at the peak of this, just being like, okay, like, what are we doing? How are we moving this forward? Like, what's the status? Who's communicating with customers? Like, what's the engineering team doing? Like, how are we moving? Like, literally, it was just all hands on deck to respond. We hope we do a lot to try and make sure these incidents never happen. But like, there's just stuff like this that's like hard to predict that comes up, or like, there's third-party outages, and like, you just have to, when they do happen, I think it's a lot about like how you respond, and we take that really seriously. So it was a week of highs and a week of lows, right? With the email incident, the good news is all the data that we have suggests that is now stabilizing. Things are back to normal. I think our email kind of approach is much more sophisticated. Hopefully we don't run into this flavor of issue again, knock on wood. But we will continue to keep you posted on that. And I think that brings us to the end of the show today. So as always, we really appreciate you kind of tuning in. A little bit of a longer episode today, but there was a lot to cover. As always, if you like this, go ahead and click on the subscribe button, leave a comment, let us know what you thought. And we hope that you have a fantastic Halloween. Brad and Molly, pleasure as always.
We're not doing week ahead. We just ran out of time.
We're not doing week ahead. We're cutting for time.
Fair enough.
We got to leave some things.
Cool stuff, I'll just say.
We're doing some cool stuff. Tune in next week, which you'll get a notification about because you've already subscribed to the channel and you've turned on that little notification bell. So you'll get notified every time we post a new episode, which happens Friday afternoons. And next week, we'll have some pretty exciting, cool things to talk about that we didn't have time for today. So see you then. Happy Friday. Happy Halloween. We'll see you in November, everybody. Bye. Don't forget to reset your clocks. I don't know, we're like springing ahead or backwards or one of the things. Google it, but do that. And we'll see you next week.
Extend it. Good job.
That's what we're doing. Yeah, that's important.